It's about keeping people happy, keeping people satisfied, and taking care of each other.
And I've never been to a place where we all brought food on a Friday, and that was really good. That was a highlight. And also was it Wednesday? Dr. Sadiq used to bring samosas, giant samosas. Oh, so nice. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was just a space where there wasn't any judgment. No, it wasn't taken, like things weren't taken, to heart, but it was a safe space, like Sharon said, where you could just talk about things with people who understood and who were sometimes in a similar situation. So
we were all ready to inspire each other and bring confidence to each other, empower each other. And I think that was really powerful. And it's the people who made the room a happy place, isn't it?
I think another important aspect of that happy place was there was no hierarchy. There were no barriers among us.
This is all very serious stuff we are talking about. What's the fun stuff?
The food.
Oh yeah,
was the fun stuff.
The multicultural food that we had.
One of the practitioners was a hairdresser. Me, my manager, and a lot of people were having our haircuts in the main office because we could not go out.
So it was good. It was sending them positive vibes across the hospital, which was really good. And it made us feel proud to be part of the happy place, isn't it?
Hello, welcome back. So today's Baithak is slightly different, and it is not going to be in Urdu because today we have Bhai with his former psychiatrist colleagues in Manchester to talk about their happy place, a little hub that they created based on people-centricity, creativity, problem solving, and many other things in a very highly intensive and mentally exhausting hospital environment. There are many lessons for the healthcare sector, the NHS, and the rest of us on how compassionate leadership and conducive culture results in happy people and thriving organizations. So without waiting any further, let's get started. Here we are. We have our Happy Place team with the lead Dr. Sadiq or Dr. Sadiq, or shall we say Bhai. And I've got all the team members, all the key components of the Happy Place. So is it okay if you guys introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, I'll start with myself. My name's Fahim. I'm a consultant psychiatrist based in Manchester and worked with Khurram Bhai as a registrar in a hospital in Manchester.
Right. Hina?
Yes, so I'm Hina, as you said. I'm a consultant psychiatrist in Manchester. And I have worked with Dr. Sadiq as a ST5 in the Happy Place.
Sharon, please.
Yeah, I'm Sharon. I'm at the moment at ST6 in Tameside. And I work with Dr. Sadiq and his team when I was ST4 in Manchester.
Okay, and finally, Ngozi.
Hi. I'm Ngozi. I'm a higher trainee. I'm an ST6, and I worked with Dr. Sadiq in Manchester as well. Yeah.
Okay, so that's our Happy Place team. Dr. Sadiq or Khurram Bhai, if you can quickly tell me, where did you create this Happy Place? What was your role, and where were you then?
I was in Manchester. Like most of my training and most of my career has been in Manchester. And when we created something, we didn't know that we were creating something actually. Like it was a fun-filled environment, and I always believe that it's about people. It's about keeping people happy, keeping people satisfied, and taking care of each other. And that's how this concept evolved. I being a consultant, the rest of them were high trainees. And when I moved in South Manchester, I think Hina was our registrar in the team. And then I knew Fahim from before. We had me, Hina, Fahim, and Ngozi had worked previously in a workplace where he have those connections from the crisis team in Manchester. And then I met Fahim for the first time. It was face to face here. And then it turns out that I was spending more time with them and less time in my room, so that my team was looking for me in the SPR room or the higher trainees room. And we used to discuss and we used to talk and we used to have fun. And that's how it all started.
Why was it different? When you say that your team was looking for you in a different place, do the teams typically look for you in a consultant's room rather than where you being found?
Yeah, most consultants will be found in their room Well, I wasn't. For me, that was a very solitary place. And I'm a kind of person who need my energy from time to time, talking to people, being with people, and sharing with people. I think I stumbled across like 4 or 5 amazing people who were very like-minded. And that's how it started. It started with stories, experiences, and day-to-day stuff. And it culminated into something which we only came to realize once we left that place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were building something internally as a team, as a culture.
Yeah.
You're not realizing what was beginning to happen, but only till you left, and you named it the happy place. Why the name? You gave it a very basic name to it, very simple, very basic name, nothing fancy. What
It
was
was
the idea behind it?
there's a story behind it because I remember we used to have a thing called Foodie Fridays, and where we used to cook for each other. Each one of us will bring a dish, and we had designated days, and we would invite other people from the corridor who were sitting there to come and join us. And somebody knocked on the door, and I think it was one of the high trainees in old age, and she
Yeah.
said, "I just had to come in because this place was buzzing, like it had positive vibes to it and looked happy. So I thought I'll see and check what this happy place is all about." So that's how the game. And I said, yes, we can call it happy place. In the next few minutes, I created a small kind of a chart and wrote happy place. I think that is one of the things that you see on my blog, a happy place that I've written. But we didn't put it outside because we didn't want it to be jinxed. So we put it inside from the inside of the, you could only see it from the inside of the room, because we thought that if we put it there and people will say what is going on, because that's the norm. If something which is an outlier is happening, people start speculating about it, and we don't want it to be in the focus.
And I think I would like to just add one thing to it while I was listening to Dr. Sadiq. So interestingly, like when we were there, the space was full of enthusiasm, energy, buzzing, excitement, everything there. Even people could feel it from outside. And as soon as we left that place, I remember being to that room again, and that room, like someone was asking me why this room has got this label written, the happy place. We didn't get it when we first started our role here. And I was surprised because that room became the same as it was just a room before we started there. So it was no more a happy place. So which clearly shows that happy place was not just the place, it was because of the happy people who get their happiness over there, get comfort with each other, and then we moved on really.
Right.
Which we had to.
So before Dr. Sadiq joined, was any of you working in that particular place?
I was.
Okay. So,
I was actually in that room for 8 months before they all started.
So if you could share, what were the things that you started noticing change in that particular place before, that concept of happy place was being coined? What was the difference?
Quite massive difference, I would say, if I look back now. So when I was there with 4 or 3 other trainees, it was an SPR room, it was a trainees room. So we all had like our own computers. We would be just facing towards the computer. At times we might talk a little bit, okay, what other person is doing or what's happening at the training, but nothing more than that. And sometimes the consultant would come in or check what they are doing, what we have got to do or something like that. But as soon as Fahim joined us, Sharon was there, Ngozi was there, and then Sadiq also started like sitting with us initially for lunch or for just a couple of hours, and then the whole time. Then I remember it was very like that, okay, now this is somewhere where I want to be, to get a positive vibe, to know myself a bit, and also like venting out my whatever I'm thinking. Nobody's going to judge me what I'm saying. So it was a place where I was feeling comfortable. So it was a massive change from being a very quiet place, quite distant people, to really people coming together and talking about themselves to each other.
Right. Okay. And as Hina mentioned, she was the first one in that room before you guys joined in. How was everyone else's experience? If I could ask Sharon or Ngozi, what was your experience in other workplaces or before this happy place was being created? What did you like about it?
I suppose for me, in other places, I've mostly just shared an office with one other person, not a few. And that place that we shared felt like our place, and it felt very safe to discuss things. So, you know, if there's any problems or anything I was worried about, or, you know, someone I was angry at or something like that, I felt like I could always share it. I think these things always happen at work, and it's good to talk to somebody that sort of works there, but not exactly in that same, you know, clinical scenario or something like that. So that was really good. And other places I've been, I mean, I've got on with the person that I shared the office with, but it doesn't felt like how this felt with all of you. This felt more like it had a lot of sort of sharing, learning environment. And because when I joined this place, I was at ST4, so I brought with me a lot of uncertainties about how is it like being an ST coming from a, you know, being core trainee, a lot of questions in that. And also Hina did that job I did just before me as well. So I had loads to ask Hina. And then Dr. Sadiq worked in the same team, but the other side, and that was really helpful as well. Yeah. And I've never been to a place where we all brought food on a Friday, and that was really good. That was a highlight. And also was it Wednesday? Dr. Sadiq used to bring samosas, giant samosas. So nice. Yes.
Whenever I used to go to the homeless team office, after that I would bring some samosas.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
always,
Your split Wednesdays. Okay. Ngozi, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think the only thing is, just like Sharon, I think I've only ever shared an office with one other trainee, or just an office on your own as a higher trainee sometimes. I think it was just a space where there wasn't any judgment. So you could sort of complain, you know, not in a bad way, but just be like, oh, I've just had such a hard day, like this has happened and that has happened. And people knew what job you were doing, or like what kind of problems you were having anyway. So they were, you know, people would chime in, but there was no judgment. No, it wasn't taken, like things weren't taken, you know, to heart, but it was a safe space, like Sharon said, where you could just talk about things with people who understood and who were sometimes in a similar situation. So yeah, that I loved it. It was great just to have your peers, because that's your peers. It's like it was the support of your peers,
right,
around. Yeah, so that was great.
Yeah. Okay. Fahim?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's that's been already said. Khurram Bhai, he's an inspirational person. As Khurram said, I hadn't met Khurram before this time, face to face, but we had multiple phone conversations, and you would hear of him from different people. And even I did a locum in Mersey, in Chester, and his name was on the you know, because he was supporting trainees who were being bullied or harassed, so his name was on that. So Khurram is a kind of a character who he gives people confidence and he empowers people. And I think that's the great quality of Khurram. And I think when we all got together, we were all ready to inspire each other and bring confidence to each other, empower each other. And I think that was really powerful. And it's the people who made the room a happy place, isn't it? And it was really, it happened by random chance. But, you know, we all had so much, you know, like Ngozi, I think I met you before we even started psychiatry training, you know, and that's amazing in itself. You know, Hina, someone who's I've known from core training, very hardworking. We've worked together. Sharon as well, you know, it was very nice to see her finish her core training, start her ST, you know, starting her ST training and doing such an amazing job. And then Khurram Bhai, you know, someone who I've looked up to. It was the first time I was able to, you know, see him and work with him, which was really fascinating, amazing for me. We were all inspired, we were all confident. Khurram it was so good that Khurram wasn't in the consultant room. He came to the registrar room. You know, we had lots of discussions. And there's a saying from, I don't know, Maya Angelou, I don't know if I pronounced her name right, but it's, if you can't use up creativity, the more you use, the more you have. So it was like that creativity was breeding more creativity, more creativity, more creativity. Even some of the things that are happening now started from that place. Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, I definitely have been hearing about the things that, you know, went on in that room, the ideas that were getting discussed, you know, from Khurram's point of view, because he was, you know, sharing those with me at the time. and I could see that it's a place where you guys can share professional but also personal plans or things where you can help out each other. If I can come back to Bhai, you've always mentioned there's specific values or basis on this, the whole concept is formed, or the foundations of this, which are not, as you say, very system driven or a process driven. If you could tell me what those values were or are, because you've replicated those models in different places.
Yes.
So what do you think is the basis of this?
I think the basis of that is that I'm a very disorganized and chaotic person, and I do not like systems. So I'm a very anti-system person. I try to find ways where there's less paperwork. And I identified it very early in my career that our staff, especially our nursing staff, they are buried under lots of paperwork. Like we would see one patient for an hour and they would spend 3 hours waiting, completing the paperwork. And this is the case right now as well. So my thing was that we have to create something, and we have to create processes which are without processes, basically, which are concepts that we can use without adding more paperwork, adding more system, adding burdensome ideation, and create something which is very simple, which is very to the point, and it tends to achieve what it says it will, and it has worked. So that was my concept. And the second thing was, I'm all about people. I remember when I was doing my surgery house job, and somebody came to me, and one of my colleagues, and he said, "Can you please stop writing 2-page personal history? It is surgery. It is not any other specialty." And I said, "Yeah, but I have to write personal history because it is about the person. It is about the illness, I reckon. But you'll find so many other things." And I said, "Stop doing that because you're getting us into trouble." So from the very start, my thing was, we have to have stories. We have to look into stories, and you have to find stories. And what I've noticed is you keep people happy and things happen. And it is unbelievable how things can happen when you have each other's back and you're supporting each other. And the other person knows that they're not going to be judged, and they are not going to be held against anything that they say when you are with that person. And when they believe, especially in the team, that if I do something wrong, the people who are going to protect me, and it will be part of the team. And if something good happens, that will be part of the team. And that's what the concepts are. And I did not realize till later that basically these concept forms the basis of compassionate leadership. And it's only recently, and I was in an interview for a job in Surrey. They made me do an assessment tool, which is Corn Fairies. And then I had a session with the psychologist for an hour. And when she was looking at my forms that I had filled up, and this was the conclusion she came with, she said, "You are somebody who do not like systems. And what your model is depicting is you are a compassionate leader." And if you look at the types of leadership, compassionate leadership does not come into that because it's a newer concept. Basically, all these values, the individual values of care, of support, of being people-centric, and anti-procedure and anti-system based, created something which we all are cherishing right now. And I have replicated that elsewhere, and Umar, you know that, and a lot of you know that. And it has been really successful. Again, without any procedures, without any systems, just common sense, simplicity, and it has achieved what it was meant to achieve.
I'll come back to the replication side of things.
Yeah.
But just getting that point, which is the whole concept of happy place when you become more people-centric. The importance of that, especially when you say you've got each other's back, you're helping each other's out. How important is it, and if it's open to everyone, in a workplace, which is healthcare environment, especially in psychiatry, where it's tough, it's tense, it can be very intimidating. You guys can definitely tell me more, but you are all psychiatrists or working in psychiatry. How important that people centricity or team building was, Hina, if you can. I see you've got a raised hand there.
Yes, actually, I just wanted to add first, before I'll answer your question, sure. I wanted to add one more thing to the basis of this happy place. I think another important aspect of that happy place was there was no hierarchy. There were no barriers among us. that was a very important part. Even though if you have hear from our introduction, we were all from different levels of training needs or clinical roles, and we all sat together without thinking about hierarchy really, and we would openly communicate to each other and express ourselves, and we would trust each other, we would respect. So it was a mutual respect, mutual learning with each other, which is, again, I agree with Dr. Sadiq that like a basis of a compassionate leadership where you would learn from each other, you would respect you. There is no barrier. There is just learning without those barriers. That's what something I wanted to add. So coming back to your question, I think we, as a psychiatrist, where we work with the challenging roles, challenging patients, like difficulties, the people who are having day-to-day difficulties with the aspects which we all face, but people have different problems as a result of that. I think it's important to have such place like a happy place where you can vent out, you can express yourself, you can go back and feel relaxed, because it's not physically burdened, this work as a psychiatrist, but I think it's mentally burdened. We can easily get exhausted if we keep it to ourselves. If we know that, yes, we have got like-minded people, we have got somewhere where we can sit together, and it is in our working environment as well, then the work environment become a heaven really, where anyone would love to work, because you are not just by yourself. You're going to learn, even if you do many mistakes, nobody's going to judge you.
Right.
You will learn from your mistake, you will learn from your experience, you will learn from other people's reflection on their mistakes as well. So it's, again, a mutual learning. So yeah,
it's a bit rare in the healthcare sector or in the NHS, this kind of environment where you can be open about your reflections, your mistakes. You can vent out openly without being judged or without worrying about the consequences. Is it?
Yes, that's very true. But I think there is a little bit of it where, like, for example, when I was a core trainee, we had a balance groups where we would discuss the complex cases, and we would sit together and reflect on the case, okay, how it made us feel and what we learned together, or what other people's perspective about that particular case is. So that sort of mutual discussion is there somewhere in the basis of psychiatry. But again, it is limited to the patient. It's not. It doesn't expand onto your own self. That how you can look after yourself and look after each other in order to look after your patient, which is very important.
Yeah, Sharon.
I was just thinking. Yeah, it felt like an informal balance group sometimes, especially thinking about why, in certain situations, why we reacted the way we did, and so learning from that, talking through it. But also, I was thinking, a psychological concept of when children learn, they learn best when they're in a safe place. They go back to their mum, and that's safe, and they feel like they're able to sort of step forward and try new things, but they know they can always go back to that. And I think there's part, not to the same degree, but I think it echoes with that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you got any specific example, without compromising any confidentiality, you could share, what difference it made, or there was an incident or there was a situation where it helped?
Yeah, I think just going back quickly in terms of the happy place, and we all were generally happy in the happy place, and we all felt that nobody was judging us, and we helped each other out. And I think in a healthcare setting that is so stretched, it's important to have that. And also compassionate leadership is really important. I'm also a great believer of transformational leadership, where people are all together. There's no hierarchy. Everybody helps each other out, and it's got a compassionate focus. Transformational leadership also has a compassionate element to it. I think that's really important in healthcare settings. It's not about the individual. Often, especially doctors, and this is really important, as doctors, they tend to get very individually focused. So they do locums, they don't get involved in the teams, they don't get involved in changing services. But I think that's something that as doctors we need to go away from. We need to play a bigger role, isn't it, in terms of helping each other out. Because our success, actually, if our colleagues are successful, we'll be successful as well. It's not a competition. And if we help each other out, we'll also create new opportunities for ourselves. And also, if we get involved in the teams that we're working in, we'll gain experience of how to build teams, and we'll gain experience in improving patient care, which is why we became doctors in the first place. So I think it's really important to, as doctors, to have that mindset rather than the individual mindset of sitting in your own, consultant, as Khurram said, traditionally consultants will just sit in their room on their own. Often they might not have anything to do, so they'll just be on their mobile phone. Not all consultants, but what kind of existence is that? So I think the happy place was really a message of how, it's a model, really, isn't it, for us all to think about. Yeah, an example. So, Umar, you mentioned. So, I think we all had our own experiences. My own experience was I was an ST6 at the time. At the end of ST6, I was going to finish my training, become a consultant, and that is quite anxiety provoking. To transfer from a higher specialist trainee to a consultant psychiatrist, that's a massive jump, and I was really anxious about that. But it really helped in terms of talking to my colleagues about that. That really helped my anxiety and helped me plan for that, which was really good.
I would also give an example as well, which plays kind of a very important role in my career. Because when I started my ST5, I remember at that time, I was not very clear what I would like to really do in long term as a general psychiatrist. So I remember used to have discussions with Dr. Sadiq, with Fahim, with everyone there really. And I've kind of unwrapped a lot of things in my mind, and I came to the conclusion what I really want to do. So I got a direction while being as a part of Happy Place. So, and I think after having that kind of discussion, I got clear that, okay, this is what I want to do. Good. It definitely made me grow.
Yeah.
I didn't have a specific example, but it just reminded me of something that I've learned sort of from all of us, but especially from you, Dr. Sadiq, that you always come in with a new idea. Every day there's like a new idea that pops up. And I think what I learned from that is, so not all the idea works, but some are really good. And I think what's really important is that you go ahead and do it and actually try it and make it last. And I was just thinking that's one of the main things I've learned.
Yeah, and again, like we were having busy jobs. Like I was in split jobs. So I was doing the homeless team, and I was then managing part of the crisis team as well, and the workload was very high. So that's where, in one of the recent blogs, I've written about discharge asterisk. So by introducing a dot on the board, we just brought the caseload down to almost half. And because I read the patterns, and then I tried to think about a problem-solving strategy. And the strategy that came to me was, think about something which is very visible to everybody, so that we can make it work.
So
if you
come back and let me know what the problem was, what was there?
The problem was the caseload. The caseload was quite high in our crisis team. When I started, it was more than 50 patients for each consultant. I was having more than 50 patients, and it was the MDTs sometimes would take 3 hours and 3.5 hours, which I believe was a good way to spend time. But at the same time, it would take a lot from the clinical work. And so I thought, what is going on? Let's check the caseload. And I sat down and I thought about it. And I came to know that 1/3 of the patients were about at the verge of being discharged. And those are the patients who are better. And they get missed because they are not talked about too much. So I brought those patients to the surface. And then in front of each patient, I would put a dot. And I would tell the team that this patient is from the MDT meeting, ready for discharge. However, if you go and feel that the person is not ready, then you take the asterisk off and you put a note that person is not ready to be discharged. And as a result of that, the caseload came down significantly. And because Hina and Sharon, they have worked in the same teams, and like on one side it was growing, and on the other side it was squeezing, and people have a question whether I was a kind of a master discharger or something like that. I said, no, we're not doing anything. We're not discharging anybody who does require the service. We're discharging only those patients who are ready to be discharged back. As a result of that, the manager, who was quite good as well, he picked up the idea and he created a mini discharge team whose role was to go in the morning, check the board, note down the patients, and work on discharging those patients during the next 2 or 3 days. Okay. So a process came into being without any paperwork. And it was such an important process. It saved hours and hours and hours, because we could then concentrate on the patients who were really, really unwell. That was just one example.
Yeah, and those were long lists which were there for a while. Just one opportunity and a physical, visual clue helped bring that list down. That's fantastic. That's like the kind of outcomes that the management is looking for as well. So while there were personal outcomes or personal things that you were achieving at your own level or professional level, discussing with each other at the happy place, that happy place was also helping making difference to the wider team in the NHS or in the trust you were working with there. Good, right. If you could tell me more about how you were perceived as a happy place team, what was the vibe going outside of the team? So how was the rest of the trust or the managers or the people around you? Did their opinion change? Were they starting to see a difference? From that core happy place group people?
Definitely, there was such a vibe. The room was always people in the room, noise coming from the room. Khurram bought his guitar sometimes and playing his guitar, food. People were intrigued, and one of the lead consultants, a few times, she used to peek in and see what's going on, and I think secretly missing out. And also one of the my consultant, very good consultant, he used to come in to get some food now and again. So it was good. It was sending them positive vibes across the hospital, which was really good. And it made us feel proud to be part of the happy place, isn't it? That this is where we are.
I think I don't know. I'm not very much I don't want to add anything in terms of management, but I definitely remember it had a positive impact onto the junior doctors as well. Like, I remember we had few junior trainees like CTs or foundation trainees. They used to come in, and for example, if they are struggling with something, they would sit with us. They would forget they were talking to the higher trainee or a consultant, and they would also feel expressed. They're expressing themselves over there without being judged, like same as we were feeling. So they were also getting benefit from being a part of that happy place sometimes whenever possible.
This one is particularly from me, and it's to do with the whole discussion and the platform we're having this discussion on the mental health matter. How does a happy place affect mental well-being at work and outside of work, having that environment? And did that change when you guys left for different places?
Yeah, it definitely, more than 50% of our lives are spent working, and if not in the workplace, even outside workplace, we are most of the time we are working. So if you're happy at your workplace, and it kind of reflects on your family time, on your interactions with your family, interactions with your friends. Like, so many times, my wife has said to me that because I travel at least 3 hours a day to my workplace, and when I come back, I said, "How come you are happy? You're still very much keeping your sense of humor." I said, "Because I come from a place where I want to be, and it's giving me that satisfaction. It reflects on the family dynamics. It reflects on your internal dynamics, on your learning as well. If you're happy, the mind becomes more conducive, and it generates more ideas." As Sharon was saying, I was coming up with more ideas because I was so happy. I was so satisfied. I was so contented with the whole thing that every time there was like, I would think of Fahim, I would text him beforehand, or text Hina beforehand, or Sharon beforehand, and we would meet up and we would discuss something new. And as a result of that, Fahim was saying, we found direction. A few of the projects that I'm working on, it actually culminated right in the heart of that happy place.
This is all very serious stuff we are talking about. What's the fun stuff?
The food.
Oh yeah,
What's the fun stuff?
The multicultural food that we have.
And I believe that's where we probably met as well. Your team meetings, the
buffet,
team
yeah,
as well. The buffets, quarterly, I believe. Is it right, Dr. Sadiq?
Yeah, it was quarterly. That was something that I picked up from my mentor, Dr. Mahadan, when I was working with a crisis team, because he used to treat us from time to time, taking us to places, even eat parties and stuff like that. And I said it worked, and it got the team gelled together. It was not just the food, it was the company and the interaction. And we just continued on that. We had buffets. I think Umair, on a couple of occasions, you joined in as well. Hina was there, Sharon was there. I don't remember Fahim, were you there or not? I think
No.
No, he was not. He was not. So that was the kind of environment. Plus the preparing of food. It was not bringing in food that that was ready made. It was preparing yourself for the team and keeping in view everybody's like. I remember Ngozi is a vegetarian, right?
Yes.
So we used to consider all those aspects of what can we prepare, because I remember I was at the verge of making lamb karai, and then Fahim said, Ngozi is vegetarian, and then I turned to, I think it was chili paneer or something, my wife's recipe that I created then.
And I think it was just not the sharing food, it was also sharing a memory behind the food as well. So we used to talk about, okay, so why we may like this food. For example, if Ngozi brings some food, it was something your grandmother's recipe, isn't it?
Yeah,
jollof rice.
Yeah.
Jollof rice, yeah.
Yes, jollof rice. And we really learned about it, okay, how it's made, what is it. And then when Sharon bring that, I think it was, I don't remember the name exactly.
I don't remember.
We got to learn about, okay, what exactly the Malaysian food is like and what it is about. So we got to know about really each other's culture, each other's memories. So it made us a part of one, really like a family.
Right. I think what's important, and I would like to emphasize that, although coming from outside, but having been close to the happy place through my interactions with Bhai, and then I've met Fahim separately as well, and Hina separately as well, that it's really important for healthcare or an NHS environment. It's not as common as you may think it is, and the effect or the impact you all have been able to achieve at a personal level and a professional level is huge, which I hope we are able to communicate and share across through this platform. But these are looked upon as very tiny things that may not be making a difference, because these are probably making a difference in the background, not at the forefront at all times. So appreciating and realizing that is important. So I just want to emphasize on that point, that because of how highly you all talk about this, shows how important it was at different points of your careers. So what happened when you guys started to part away? Who was the first one to ditch the team or to leave?
We all did at the same time.
I think we all left at the same time.
Oh God.
We all left at the same time.
Right.
And that was amazing, because I was the only locum that was staying there. The rest of them were trainees. Fahim was signing off and to be a consultant. Whereas around that time, I moved to, somehow an opportunity came, and I moved to south of England to be with my family. And you remember how difficult that parting was from Manchester.
Yeah, you wrote a massive blog on your leaving on the happy place, and it showed how much it meant to you.
Yeah, and so we all parted at the same way, and we did not realize how important it was till we actually parted. And that was a time when I thought about it and reflected on it, because Sharon has mentioned about it being a balance group, and I said it had component of balance group, it had component of coaching, it had component of mentoring, it had component of being a team player and being a comrade or something like that. So it fulfilled all those components, like we discuss personal lives, we discuss professional lives, all our experiences that we had, positive or negative. And believe me, if you had to write it on the walls, it would all be black, because that was the amount of ideas that we generated in that room. Right from a small entrepreneur projects to big projects and hospitals and satellite clinics, and like I remember I applied for my TED Talks on one of your computers when I started to get the idea that I have to do a TED Talk on the subject, on social media and mental health. That actually started from there in the happy place, because I was getting ideas and then getting motivated to do something big.
Okay. So the rest of you, how did it feel? And was it when you left, you realized what you left behind?
I think personally, I did feel that this is a special, I think we even had these discussions that this is a special time and this is not going to happen again, for all of us to be together and being able to work together like this in the happy place. But also since then, it's made me reflect how we are, as doctors, we're made to work as single people. Like, for example, when we're on calls, as trainees, you work on your own. When you become a consultant, you might have your own office, and you're encouraged to be alone. There's been a movement, across all hospitals in the UK over the last 20, 30 years. The doctor common rooms are going away. They're smaller and smaller. So the social needs of doctors has eroded away, and actually doctors are becoming more like, do your job and then that's it, go home, don't interact with each other.
It can be an isolated place. So Ngozi, do you want to chip in with your memories and how you felt when you left?
Yeah, well, I think at the time, I like Fahim said at the time, I think I knew this was unusual because none of my previous jobs had been like that before. So yeah, I thought, there's going to be a little chance of the next job being like that. My current job is not like that. So, and I know I'm in this completely separate room from the other higher trainees, but even when I go to the shared room, there's only 2 other trainees and the atmosphere is not the same at all. So yeah, I definitely miss that. And I think when you move on to being a consultant, I think it's even more isolating from, I don't know because I'm not there, but from what I see, you're just on your own. And I think I'll definitely miss that. It would be lovely if I had, if there was something like that to, going forward, really.
I feel fortunate that we are a few of those people who had this opportunity to be a part of such place. Otherwise, a lot of people never had such experience in their whole career, because we knew it is going to end sometime. Each one of us have to go somewhere. So we were realizing towards the end that yes, it is going to end. It's no longer going to be the same. And yeah, I remember when I started my next job after that, it was my last training job. It was just on my own. So I was the only higher trainee in that place. And I used to sit alone in that office. And I remember texting Sharon sometimes, how are you doing? Are you missing that place or not? So yeah, it was quite, I think we were quite prepared, but it definitely felt quite bad after leaving that place. It was a lot to reflect on, really. The learning we had, the experiences we shared, and really the friendship we got, really, the bonding which we had over the year. We cannot achieve, I think, if we will be with someone for years and years.
I know for sure, Dr. Sadiq, he tried and replicated that model in the other workplaces. Did any of you try, to see if you can get like-minded people in different workplaces?
I think what that experience shows is, and also us knowing how working in the NHS can be very lonely. I think it's also our own responsibility that we get out of our office, we spend time with our colleagues, non-medic colleagues as well, and we try and recreate happy places wherever we can. And I think that's important. It's not always going to be easy. And like was saying, if you're the only doctor, or if the environment's not conducive, it makes it very difficult, because lots of times your room size is being reduced, computers are being taken away so you don't sit next to each other. So there's lots of things trying to avoid the happy places from occurring, but it's our role to try and make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's, carrying those values comes back to that, that's why I asked the question, what were the foundation values or the basis of that happy place? Things like people-centricity, teamwork, having each other's back, those are the kind of things which you can, of course, you all have taken away from your experience and brought into the new workplaces. Bhai, if you could tell about how you were able to replicate that in a completely new environment, so it wasn't a one-off thing.
The first thing is a very important thing, as Fahim has said, being a consultant, you're very lonely. You are given an office and your expectation is to be staying in that office. People knock on your door and you'll only come out only if it is required or if it is needed. My point was, this is something that I have to break. So non-hierarchy. The next thing that I went to work with it was Basingstokes. Again, they were a struggling team. They're one of the worst performing team in their area, despite of having extraordinary skill set and amazing leadership. And I think the one piece that was missing that I became was the medical side of the leadership. And I believe because as a consultant, you're in a very high position to create obstacles or reduce obstacles. So it has to come from you. So it's kind of a top-down approach. It is in your control. If you bring down the insecurities by bringing down the hierarchy, people will start respecting you and start listening to you. At the same time, I always believe that learning is the main important thing, because compassionate leadership, as Fahim said, it is nothing without a transformational model attached to it. Because although, so somebody said, hand holding and wiping somebody's tears, it does not reflect on the performances. You have to go above and beyond that. Compassionate leadership means a lot of tough decisions to be taken. At the same time, you have wealth of knowledge. Everybody amongst people sitting here and the people there on this forum, they have amazing knowledge base, an amazing skill set. And the first thing is we need to transfer that skill set in order to make the environment better. Because what we should not forget is, especially in the health sector, it's all about people. It's all about the patients, and it's all about your colleagues. So if you take care of your colleagues that you're directly involved with, they will take care of your patients. But if you treat them badly, then they will stop caring about that place, and they'll stop yearning towards it, and they'll stop looking forward to it. So that's what I did when I came in. There were things that I learned from other crisis teams that I've worked in nationally, and I brought those processes in, and without any paperwork. And the amazing thing was our manager is a visionary. Once she looked at the idea and she said, okay, can we implement it in 2 days? And I was like, what? 2 days? Because previously, my experience was you bring an idea, discuss an idea, it goes to the senior management, it bounces back again, and you're looking at months and months and months. And I was seeing ideas being replicated or being implemented within 2 days, 3 days, maximum a week. And we were seeing a lot of performance-driven people. All of a sudden, the whole scenario changed. The workload, again, amazingly, and people are happy and they are looking and they are upskilled and they can see things, they actually became a self-sustaining unit. What I did extra was, because in the crisis team, we were already talking about autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. This is kind of my niche area, but we know that 30% nowadays caseload is ADHD and ASD. So I upskilled the team by giving them a few workshops and then telling them how to screen patients. Since then, I think it's been a year and a half, they have not missed a single patient. They have triaged them, they have screened them, they have done assessments on them and signposted them to the relevant secondary care services. So we are not missing on any patient. At the same time, we have food. Again, one of the main themes of our team, like we are known as the feeders, because everybody believes in food and we we are human beings at the end of the day. This is the basic need. Like imagine in this pandemic, we had cricket games in our offices. We had tennis games in our offices. We went to a picnic after first pandemic came down. One of the practitioners was a hairdresser. Me, my manager, and a lot of people were having our haircuts in the main office because we could not go out. One day I was having a beard cut with all the things in the middle of an office, with having the board, patient board, and an ST6 walked in. I was like, what is happening? I said, it's team building. What else? And he was in shock. And then when I told him about the idea, I said, yes, it makes sense because it makes you gel with other people. It brings you closer as a community. So again, those principles of taking care of people, patient centricity, people centricity, selflessness, upskilling, at the same time creating learning hub, because your soul dies the day that you stop learning. It becomes a very, very learning kind of hub, to the point that it got shortlisted for the Quality Improvement Award within 6 months of being the worst team in the area. And then all of a sudden, everybody started talking about it. I remember one day my medical director knocked on my door and said, everything is okay? I said, yeah, fine. Have you heard anything untoward? I said, no, we're not hearing any complaints about your team. I said, okay, is that good news? I said, yeah, that's a good news. And 2 months later, she knocked again and said, tell me, I'm here to learn from you. What have you done? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, we are hearing really nice things about your team. What have you done? I said, nothing. I've not introduced anything. I've not introduced any processes. What I've done is we have created a leadership huddle. Every message comes from the leadership huddle. We include everything. We prepare our teams, even for the worst of the changes, and we work together a unit. And I've told my team that I will be enjoying your victory, because for me, it's team that becomes victorious. And I feel so good standing in the background, seeing them enjoying those things. However, when the difficulty comes, the problem comes, I'm the first one, and the leadership team is the first team that comes in and protect our own people, and they know that, and that has worked.
Wow. Okay. Impressive. It's something that you've replicated. You've made it work. You've taken the good lessons, and you've been able to accelerate that in the new workplace. How do you make this sustainable? So it's not dependent on you or a group of 5 people around me. So it's not dependent on them to make it happen.
We upskill them. And again, the role of our team is that we identify the talent, the people who are really good. Like I remember within a year, one of our band 5s became one of band 7s, which is a team leader for a different team within 2 years or 3 years of qualifying. Another one going on the same path. So what we do is we coach them. We tell them what is good about them. There's a lot of praise that goes on in our team. I remember the first few weeks I was there, I wrote 2 emails about 2 different professions, and the manager was knocking on my door next. I said, "This has never happened. A consultant has never praised the team." I said, "It's a shame that they have not praised such a good, talented team." So this is what we do: praise, upskilling, and preparing them. There is what do you call it? Succession plan. So we know amongst our leadership team or the non-medical team who is prepared for the next role, and we prepare them accordingly, and we give everybody the opportunity to do so. And what we have noticed is there were times that all the 5 leadership team people were engaged somewhere else. They were not worried about it. Because what they do is now, if they don't come to us, they have their own mini MDTs. If they see a problem, if they see a difficult patient, if they see a complex patient, at the same time, they try to resolve that issue. For example, if the caseload goes up, I don't have to tell them, or the manager doesn't have to tell them, or the team leader doesn't have to tell them. They look at the caseload themselves, see it's going high. So we have to look at the people who are ready to be discharged, and then they work on discharging those patients. I remember going on leave 1 week, and the caseload was around 30 something, and it has now been above 25. I said, "Oh my God." When I come back from leave, it will be massive. So 3 days later, when I came back and I checked, it has come down to 28. And I remember that I was not there, the medic manager was not there, and the team lead was not there as well. This is what the legacy is, the self-sustaining unit. The legacy is not creating something. Legacy is to sustain that thing that you have created by instilling them with the opportunity, with hope, upskilling them and preparing them for the next step, not being jealous, not being very defensive, or not being very insecure. It should be a very open environment where I believe that if I give skills to Hina will be the next medical director, or Sharon will be the next medical director. I should not be afraid to do so, because then I'll be killing my own legacy.
No, that's good. Like if tomorrow you were to leave that place will still have the principles and the learnings that you have left behind to self-sustain that journey forward while you build a new happy place at a different place. Just want to bring it to a close. It's been a long one. Appreciate everyone's time. If I was to ask you and anyone else, to someone listening, so there will be hopefully a lot of your NHS colleagues or people in different healthcare environments or non-healthcare environments listening to this. Where do you start? Do I start by finding the right kind of people around me? Do I look for people?
I think you start with yourself. You start to know yourself. What helped me was one of the tools which I very much advocate, which is MBTI. That helped me explore my own self and explore people around me. That was the first time that I came to know about myself, things about myself that I never knew. So that's the first step.
I think I agree with you, Ambi, because I remember when we were in Happy Place, we used to talk a lot about, I think that was our first way of opening into each other's really like how we are, who we are, and what we can do, what we have as a strength or weakness. So I think it's important to know yourself first, your own needs, because if your own needs are fulfilled, you can look after the people as well around you. You can build that environment if you are really happy, you are satisfied what you are doing. You know what you are doing. Not only satisfaction comes from different ways really, but I think if you know who you are, what you are doing, and what everyone else really wants around as well, you can create an environment.
Good.
I think it's about knowing yourself and respecting the people you work with. And as Khurram said, it's about learning from each other and imparting knowledge to each other, isn't it? Because our success is in everybody else's success, isn't it? There's no competition in that. You know, there's so many opportunities in healthcare. Healthcare is a growing field. That should be the mindset, and a very open and broad mindset.
Great. And I think we can bring it to a close. It was lovely to meet you all, Ngozi for the first time, and the rest of you after a long time. And hopefully, when this pandemic ends soon, we can have a face-to-face reunion of the Happy Place. And I suppose it's important to also add that while this is the core team, there are more players in the Happy Place. There's more people in the Happy Place that were part of this journey. So thank you to each one of those individuals who became part of that journey. So we are here to discuss about them and the place that they created.
And thanks to you as well for making this reunion possible. And also, of course, Dr. Sadiq, because if you both not have think about it, we won't be reuniting on this platform.
It's important from our mental health Baithak point of view as well. This coming from people who have worked in the field of psychiatry, where it's high pressure, it's intense, every day is different. That's where the well-being, the stress-free environment, creating this kind of a place makes a massive difference. So well done to you all, and to Dr. Sadiq, aka Bhai, for making this happen. And look forward to seeing you all again.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye from me.
Bye.
Bye.